Hi, I'm Mary Bridges, a volunteer at the Maritime Heritage Alliance in Traverse City, Michigan. MHA's boat shops are located on West Bay at the Discovery Center, Great Lakes campus, which is also home to the Great Lakes Children's Museum and Watershed Center, Grand Traverse Bay. The MHA's boat docks are across M22 at the old coal docks, where the tall ship Manitou is docked. The Maritime Heritage Alliance came into being 31 years ago. Since that time, the MHA's vessels have given us a glimpse of what it must have been like in the mid-1800s, when over 2,000 two-masted sailing vessels plied the waters of the Great Lakes, transporting cargo and shuttling freight between ports. The Maritime Heritage Alliance not only provides training for crew members who dream of hoisting the sails on a schooner, and reenactors who show us what life must have been like aboard an armed sloop engaged in battle during the War of 1812, but also what it was like to use the tools and materials necessary to construct and maintain these wooden vessels. And it's all because of men like Bob Kohler, Rich Brower, and Ed Brown, who passed away last year at the age of 98. These men had a vision and made it happen. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mary.
Bob, let me start with you. How did it all begin, and what was your vision for MHA?
There was a group, Rich and several others, that were very interested in classic wood boats. And we had met previously in what was called the Grand Traverse Cruising Club, and had monthly meetings with guest speakers. It was great. We'd have 30 or 40 people each meeting. And from that love of classic wood boats was what brought myself, and I'm guessing Rich, and together with this group of people, and our first interest was to preserve boats that had some historic interest in this, from this area. Subsequently, Rich acquired two boats that we still have one. Not sure what happened to the other. It was a beautiful wooden skiff from Glen Arbor named
Estella.
And we have that. We haven't restored it, but at least it's preserved. Then Rich also, I don't know how he found all these, but a motor launch, small motor launch. I'm not sure. I took the lines off of it so that we could build one in the future, but as we progressed from that point, other things popped up. But primarily for the history of boats in the area, marine history in general.
Mm-hmm. I could jump in with, at the beginning of this organization 31 years ago, Bob and a few of us were kind of remnants of this other organization, but we were kind of excited to build something that had some historical value, in addition to acquiring things like the ones he'd mentioned. And so we all knew about the Mackinac boat as a pretty common thing back in the mid-1800s, and it was sort of like the pickup truck of the day. And if you needed a small load of something ferried from someplace to someplace else, most of the communities were close to water, and the Mackinac boat became the desired vessel to pull it off because they were very shallow draft that you could scoot around pretty easily and get close to shore and all that. So we decided to build this replica Mackinac boat, and traditionally they're they're over 30 feet or so, aren't they? A lot of them are bigger
30
than,
feet.
Yeah, about-
is common. And a little bigger.
yeah, 30 to 35 feet. But the problem with a boat that big for us was you can't trailer it easy, you can't show it, So Bob got his pencils out and his all his squirrely little squiggly line apparatuses and came up with a line drawing for a 20-foot version of the Mackinac boat, scaled down from this larger one. And immediately we started building that. And I still remember Bob down at we started at Clinch Park under a cover that we'd built, and the minute that started taking shape, people started swarming in from the community, volunteering. And there were a number of fellas and gals that came down there and tried to help out and did. And that was 1982, and during the summer, that was all quite the rage around here. The waterfront had not been improved much at all. In fact, the tone of it was a little bit not exciting even back then. It's hard to imagine, actually, but I tried to raise money for things like this, and I was met often with kind of a blasé reaction. It's inconceivable for little bits of money, not big money, just little bits, and from people that should have been very enthusiastic because that was just the way it was. Mercifully, the Olson Foundation, Jerry Olson, was 100% gung-ho about this, and he single-handedly really got us the shot in the arm that it needed to pull that off. And so Bob and a bunch of the guys and gals were building this thing, and by the end of the summer it wasn't quite finished, and we moved into the vacant firehouse downtown on Cass Street, which is now, used to be Hannah's, is now Fufu or something, a restaurant, kind of a high-end restaurant. But at that time it was basically an abandoned fire station. Still had the pole and all that. And so finished it up there. And then in November of 1982, the Gracie L, as it turned out to be called, was launched out here in West Bay. And it's a beautiful craft. And that was the beginning of it. And then almost immediately after that, everybody was excited to do something bigger. Let's go at this again. There was this sense of satisfaction. And we kicked around different things, and the story that came up then was the Madeline, which of course was the first school functionally north of Grand Rapids, was on board the original Madeline in 1850 out by Bowers Harbor here. And it's quite an involved story, but it's relevant as all get out to our community, so that's why we built the Madeline. And again, Bob rolled up his sleeves and made that happen.
Can you tell us the challenges you faced building a 92-foot schooner? Why did you build her, and how did you find volunteers to work on her?
Correction, it's 56-foot
56-foot schooner.
Well, 92 is overall, 56 is the...
Well, length overall, length of the hull.
Oh, okay, fine. What's the, sparred length? Sparred length's 92, okay.
Oh, okay. It's good to clarify that. So 56 foot, and how many volunteers worked on that? And it took 5 years, I believe?
About 5. Well, from the time I started designing it, probably closer to 6 and a half. There was quite a bit of work before we touched a piece of wood.
And the Madeline is now one of the tall ships in the state of Michigan,
Yep.
right?
Which
Absolutely.
can tell you more about that.
Yeah,
And
well,
it's going in the challenge, it'll be in the...
oh yeah,
And it
yeah.
regularly does that?
Yeah,
The
the-
Tall Ships
And
Challenge?
she's referring to its state boat.
Yeah, it was, the Madeline became the first vessel that was acknowledged by the state of Michigan as historic. So we were happy about that, and it's true.
Yeah.
So it was a good designation for us.
Oh, wonderful. Well then, moving forward, that was in 1990 when it was finished, or 91.
90, yeah.
Okay, the MHA acquired the armed sloop Welcome in 92 and became her owner in 06.
Yeah, well,
And then it's a replica, right, of another Welcome that sailed the Great Lakes from 1774 to 1781
something like
before
that. Yeah.
becoming lost in the
I wasn't
storm.
around much. My memory doesn't
weren't there?
serve me that far back, but maybe you can tell.
Well, I just wondered how much work you've done over the past 21 years to keep Welcome afloat.
But let me tell you how it started, and then I can throw it to Bob, because he's the one that put all the work in. I kind of started it a little bit because I was up in Sheboygan poking around in a boneyard in 1992, in the fall of '92. And there was this big blue tarp blowing in the breeze behind Wallstrom Marine in Sheboygan. And I was kind of curious because something big was underneath this thing. And so I went over and poked around and pulled this tarp up, and it was like, that's the Welcome. That's where it is. And it was in the fall, I remember. And I brought it back to the board of the MHA, the news that I stumbled on the Welcome, and we're all fired up to do something again. And there was talk about building a boat from scratch, which was definitely on the burner then. But then here comes the Welcome. And so we were all kind of excited about that. And again, I went back to Jerry Olson and told him about it and said we'd like to bring it to Traverse City to work on it. We checked with the state, and they said, sure, you can play with it for a while, see if you can do something with it. And then Jerry Olson said, yes, I'll help you get it to Traverse City. So Bob and a couple of guys went up there to help this house mover load it up on this is a big boat, and haul it over to Traverse City. And I remember because I was going to get video of it as it's coming down the highway or whatever to get here. And this guy was going 60 miles an hour with this gigantic boat behind him.
Road. Wow, ice.
Yeah, and they passed me, and I had to find a way to get around in front of them, and I did, but barely. They took it to the Great Lakes Maritime Academy. This is before the academy was fixed up like it is now. And that's where we had built the Madeline, and that's where the Welcome landed too. And it sat there for quite a long time while we were working on it there. So that's how it kind of came to be in Traverse City. And then later, when it was clear we had put all this time into the thing, I went to our state senators and pleaded that we get the title to this thing, because we had had so much time and investment in this boat that it's not even fair to have it owned by another entity like the state. It should just be transferred to us. And there was no provision in the state law to allow that. But our senator and representative here at the time took, I think it was almost 2 years to get the law changed. And then I went up to the fort, which is where the Mackinac State Parks Commission office is, and I picked up the title one day, and that was that. And but Bob can speak to the actual construction because he was more hands-on down there all the time. When he wasn't out golfing, he was down there.
What kind of work have you done in the last 21 years on the Welcome?
What kind?
Yeah. What's had to be done every year or ongoing?
We had to strip out the interior and reframe it. The original frames were Douglas fir, which is good boat building material if you can't find anything else. It rotted away. It's used on the West Coast because they don't have oak and they don't have cedar and so forth. Why it was built with Douglas fir, we still don't know, but it was. And the frames rotted. So we wound up replacing probably 65–70% of the frames. This was massive stuff, 3 inches thick. 3 pieces together made 9 inches by 6 inch deep frames. And then it became apparent that the deck beams had rotted. They looked great, but again, Douglas fir rots from the inside. The outside looked beautiful. Replaced all the deck beams, replaced the deck, replaced some of the stem, and probably about 60% of the original planking was okay. So we were able to get some good cedar from Beaver Island to finish planking it. And that was the primary. Well, then we had to completely redo the interior, bunks, bulkheads, all of the amenities, plus reinstall the engines and all that's involved with those. Oh, and last but not least, the old mast was, that's a whole other story when I hear about the mast.
Of course. Sure.
Oh, no, okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
That we had with Madeline and some other boats been able to get trees out of local forests, white pine. A lot of it from DNR, some private property stands. So building Madeline, we probably spent out cruising through forests to pick out just exactly the right trees. I bet we spent a total of 2 weeks at least with foresters and whatnot, tramping through the woods. You probably look at 1,000 trees before you find one that's straight enough and free of limbs that is sufficient. So that was Madeline. So when we needed a new mast for Welcome, we did some looking, but we just couldn't. It was a much bigger mast than the Madeline, and couldn't find anything suitable. We'd heard that the Menominee Indian Reservation in Wisconsin had some beautiful trees. They have a forestry division. They have huge virgin timber, hardwood, softwoods. They're in the lumber business. They had donated the spars for the Milwaukee schooner,
Dennis Sullivan, yeah.
Dennis Sullivan. So we thought, maybe they'll donate a tree for us. And so we contacted them. That was quite interesting talking with these people. They have quite a forestry department. Some of their tribe members go to school and study forestry and come back. So they must, I would guess they probably at that time had half a dozen resident foresters. Anyhow, they said, well, come on over and we'll see if we can find something. So a couple of us made a trip over and cruised there. Thousands of acres of beautiful forest. If you ever get a chance to see that, it's beautiful.
I think they have 250,000 acres.
It's on the Black River.
Yeah.
Runs through it. They also have a casino. A very self-sustaining tribe.
So that's where the mast came from.
So we found a tree that was suitable, and they said that we could have, or didn't say we could have it. That was left up in the air. Subsequently, when we got back, there was further negotiations, and they notified us that they would donate it. So we made another trip over. The same house mover took his huge lowboy tractor, went over to pick it up. You were there,
Yeah.
weren't you?
Yeah.
Tell about the
Well, I flew over in a airplane because I didn't because it was kind of I was able to rig up a nonprofit thing for that, and so I met these guys. They drove over and had this shepherded out, but the tribe really were very excited that this mast would go to something with this sort of historical value, and they applauded what we were doing heavily, and they blessed the tree. They had one of their religious ceremonies around it, and it was quite a beautiful thing. And then I won't forget it because they had the ceremony, and then the tree wasn't in sight. All these people from the tribe and the community were right there, including a few of us who were receiving it. And all of a sudden, somebody says, "Okay," they got on a two-way radio, and here comes our guy with a semi. Comes around this corner, and here comes the tree, and everybody now saw the prize. It was quite a beautiful thing. And then the tribal people and a few of us went up and touched it, and they said some prayers towards it, and then Phil, the driver of the semi, just hit the gas and took off, and the next thing you know, it's over here again. But it was quite a beautiful thing, and that's kind of what that speaks to the whole nature of the Maritime Heritage Alliance kind of thing. It's like, it's a group of similar-minded people from lots of different cultures that share in the importance of the Great Lakes.
Oh, sure.
I think it's interesting to speak of Phil Jonason. Phil is from down near Hart, has a huge building moving business. He liked what we were doing. Ed Brown just saw him one day moving a house in Traverse City, asked him if we could move Madeline when we launched it, and he got right in the spirit of that thing. And he did that, the initial move on Madeline, which was only about 100 yards, took his equipment to do it. Then he moved Welcome at just cost. He had his whole team of men welded up a trailer. The only charge was the cost of the steel and so forth. Then when we needed a mast, he was only too happy to, I think he saw that as kind of a nice little outing for him.
Oh, wow.
But that's a
Really?
8-hour drive or something.
But that's epitomizes what we've run into over the years, the community cooperation. Just people doing their best to help us out. And here's Phil from Hart, jumps right in there.
Right. Well,
We owe everything to the community.
Yeah, it's true.
so by 2006, at that point, you had the Gracie L, you had the Madeline, you had the Welcome, and then you had the H-28, which was the Arcturus, which
Yeah,
we
the
still have.
Herreshoff, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had the Witchcraft.
We've had that for a while. The Witchcraft was a Bill Livingston boat that was built up in Northport. Tremendous local ties, and if it was back in the water now, it might be the fastest boat out there still. It's amazing. And I was out one day with the Gracie L, which is a replica of this schooner rig thing, and I'm out poking along one day. This must have been back in the late or mid 90s or something, and I was out there poking along, enjoying the beautiful sail, and here comes this sailboat out of nowhere, and he just, and it was the Witchcraft with a couple of our guys on it, and he just went flying by. I mean, I don't know what the speed was, but in no time at all they were out of sight. And then I realized I'm on a replica of a clunky old cargo boat, and they're on a very progressively designed sloop. And but Bill Livingston was an icon around here for a long time and built a lot of boats. I don't know the count up in Northport, but he was a prolific boat builder and well liked. And every once in a while you'll bump into somebody that remembers him, but MHA is not going to forget him, and we've got the witchcraft to prove it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it was in 2006 also that the MHA moved to the new Discovery Center,
Yeah.
Great Lakes campus in Grey Lakeville on M22. And you opened the workshop in 2009. And this was a result of a donation of land by Mike Dow to the Rotary Camps and Services.
Yes.
So what did this mean to the MHA and its future?
Well, we used to dream about having waterfront. I mean, even at the beginning of MHA back 30-some years ago, we were picturing 2 or 3 acres out in Garon, you know, at a pole barn out in the back of somebody's barn. And we never dreamed we'd be, you know, on the bay. And then as things evolved and that you're speaking of started to become viable, and the conditions were right. And Traverse City Rotary Club is an amazing organization with a lot of progressive ideas, and they also saw that the history of the Maritime Heritage Alliance, the Watershed Center, and the Children's Museum needed a presence, and it makes good sense to tie them together somewhere. So here was this 8 acres over here with you know, waterfront, and it took a while to engineer this, but it happened. And so now this group is collectively called the Grand Traverse Bay Alliance, and it's made up of these 3 partners. And it has board meetings and deals with business, and the various organizations pay a certain amount of rent to be there. And but it's because it's a group, and we're all on the same page. It's very efficient. And so then we individually raise money for our own projects, but then occasionally collectively do something through the Grand Traverse Bay Alliance as well. So you know, we have the pier out on that old rickety wooden pier out on the bay there that Bob used to manage years ago when I first met him back 35 years ago or whatever. And I'm the dock master there now as a volunteer, which is kind of pathetic for anybody that has to work with me. But nonetheless, we all kind of pick a corner and work there for it. And then any money we raise at the dock area goes to feed the Grand Traverse Bay Alliance overhead, and it all helps the mission of all 3 organizations. So it's just a win-win situation, and it's not going to stop. It's getting bigger and better, and there's amazingly beautiful plans to really tie that together. And you know, that maybe the next time we meet, we'll be able to share some of that.
Sure, that'd be great. Well, then in 2008, the cutter Champion, which was built in 1968, joined the MHA fleet. So Henry Barkhausen of Harbor Springs, Michigan, donated the vessel for the purpose of providing educational sail training opportunities to the greater Northwest Michigan community, and specifically for use in an MHA sailing program for at-risk youth. So how has the Champion and its programs, including charters, contributed to the mission of the Maritime Heritage Alliance?
You want to?
I think the biggest thing going with Champion is we have a program that's given back to the community. That's the program for at-risk children. And if we didn't do anything else with Champion, that would be well worth it.
The Champion represents our first real big outreach to the community, especially the youth. Although all along we've had youth programs. It's just that none of them were as visible as this one. So our mission has always been to offer programs to the youth, but it was that boat that really put us on the map. And what's nice about it is we're catching teenagers at kind of forks in the road, and they might be handed to us by the court system or by Child and Family Services or somebody, and these are young people that have maybe made a couple of bad choices along the way and are at a point where they need to, if you know, this is a good time to catch them kind of thing. And so what happens is there's a professional counselor on board that helps them, and what they learn in a very short bit of time is teamwork, trust, and a new skill set, and then confidence. And these counselors that we work with to run this program are professional at this, and they quantify the value. They can actually take like a test at the beginning and then a test at the end somehow, and the test at the end is absolutely off the charts. And it's documented to be a very successful program, to the point where I think it's already booked full for this coming season, and we're not even in it yet. So it's an amazing thing, and we might even expand the program if we can pull it off, because it's really offering a benefit to the community, but it's also interpreting Great Lakes maritime history at the same time. So it's like all this is starting to pay out now, and it's a wonderful thing. And then what was nice too is in I think it was '09, the Josh Lucas movie Hideaway, which at the time was called Year in Mooring. They were looking for a location to shoot this movie in Michigan, anywhere in Michigan. And they'd been dragged around to the various municipal marinas around, and the director didn't like any of them. And they came here, and I met with him because I'm in that industry a little bit. And I go, well, what have you seen? And he's telling me all these municipal marinas. And I said, they're all the same. They're all built by the state waterways. They're all going to look the same, and none of them are going to work. I can tell you that now without even taking it anymore. No, and he described what he wanted, and I suggested Bowers Harbor. And we went out there, and he said, I'm shooting the movie here. That was that. It was that quick. And then they were looking for boats, and we were able to feed him the Champion. So now the Champion is a major star in this Josh Lucas movie. And so it's got some notoriety that way, and it was fun too. And they also bought us a new set of sails for it, because they needed to show the old tattered sails plus the transformation to new sails. So it was like, well, the only way they're going to do that is somebody's got to cough up some new sails. So they bought new sails for it, plus they rented the boat from us. So it was a good bit of commerce to help get this thing going and give it some notoriety too.
So we've talked about the MHA's mission, we've talked about some of the boats, the vessels, some of the programs. Sail Champion is one, and we've talked about various other things, but considering the northern Michigan winters, that they are so long and summers short, what sorts of winter projects have there been over the years in the MHA boat shops?
After the boat sails for a season, you need 8 or 9 months to work on it to get ready for the next season. The shop is probably one of the highlights of our operation. As people come in and visit, they're drawn to the shop and what's going on. We have great volunteers. They're busy and always willing to show people through and show what we do. There's history there for them to see.
Well, how about any special tools you need to use or special skills that you need in the boat shop, since these are old boats?
Whoever we can get. Yeah, there are skills, there are various sorts, and but most anybody who comes along, well, put them to work. And the nice part of it is that we've got a lot of history setting there that people can come in and browse around, and we don't have conducted tours. The traffic is not, when we were building the boats was when we had traffic and we had docents and had booths set up with merchandise and so forth. And over at the college we had steady streams some days of people. Must have been days when there were a couple thousand people walk through. It seemed like a couple thousand. And the Northwestern Michigan College really sought that. They were happy to have that exposure. When we finished Madeline, we tore everything down, fences, buildings, cleaned it up, turned it back to lawn when we decided to do welcome. We went back to the college, wondering would they let us back in. They were tickled to death to have us back. And
the Maritime Academy students also were part of this whole thing. Those guys, they get tremendous education down there at the college for the whole Great Lakes maritime, the world maritime scene. But what they don't get often is hands-on perspective on the history of where this kind of romantic industry came from. And so a lot of them came down and volunteer and continue to when they can. I like to go down, you're talking about the shop, I like to go down there at lunchtime and just bring up some politics, some political thing, and then run away and just watch them fight for an hour while they're having a sandwich.
It's lopsided. Most are conservative, but there's one liberal who can hold his own against another dozen people.
So it's not all work over there?
No. In fact, one of my favorite stories about this organization was by Ed Brown. Well, it happened to Ed Brown, who was the original president of the group and founder, along with all of us. And somewhere in the very early 80s, he stopped me in a stairway downtown at the corner of Front and Union, because that's where my office was at the time, and he came over to visit. And he had just lost his daughter, and his only daughter, and who was in her 30s, I think, at the time. But it was a sad time for him. And but the Maritime Heritage Alliance kicked in, and there was all this camaraderie. And Ed told me in that stairway how much he appreciated the Maritime Heritage Alliance because of what it gave him back as a place to spend his time. And I realized at that moment that even though our mission is to outreach towards boats and history and all that stuff, that that's part of it. But it's also what does this organization offer the folks that have time to volunteer, and what it gets them out of the house in the morning. It gives them some place to do something worthwhile and to have camaraderie with all these other people that are part of it. And so that was the first time I realized this had a bigger scope than just a bunch of guys playing around with boats.
Sure.
So that was
and gals.
Absolutely, and I use that "guys" word globally for that because there's a lot of women involved in this organization as well, and they actually run it better than we do because we're daydreaming all the time.
So in addition to the summer crew, people crewing on the boats, in the winter, there's a lot of activity going on in the boat shop.
Absolutely. If we built these out of steel or fiberglass, there wouldn't be much going on in the winter. But
Right.
It's a group of purist boat people, and they like to, for the most part, like to work on these things. I don't know how many decks you've put on the Welcome at this point, but it's been they get brand new and then they begin to.
That's a whole other story. One thing that we have done from the start, building Babylon, working on Welcome, we stretched dollars as far as we could. And unfortunately, when it came to that deck, we had ordered some fairly expensive wood, which turned out to be pretty poor. And subsequently, we used less than ideal lumber, and the deck, but the Madeline that had better lumber, that deck leaked too. So
Wooden boats tend to leak, and that's just part of the life of it. But you get a little squawking if you have a bunk underneath a leak, then you hear about it. So while people like the wooden boats, they also like to not be dripped on during the night if possible. But
landlubbers.
yeah, pretty much. There's another, in the evolution of the Madeline, about halfway through, or thereabouts, as it was under construction, the Inland Seas Education Association was formed, and Tom Kelly, who's a friend of ours, all of ours, started this organization, and I happened to be the president of that group for the first 8 years. But at the beginning, we were looking for a school ship, and was actually thinking of the Madeline as the school ship. And but it became quickly apparent that the Madeline was designed to be a replica, not a yacht, and therefore the Coast Guard probably wouldn't be all that excited about certifying it for 50 people, kind of thing. But around, and that's where the Inland Seas ship started on its own, and that was another great success story. But what was interesting is, I remember going to Jerry Olson. Again, I was down at his store a lot, and he always would say he only works half time, just 12 hours a day at his shop, and which I think is kind of true.
But I also said the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah, that's true. But Bob we all needed more lumber for the Madeline, and so I was down there doing the customary explanation, and he was generally very supportive of us, but he wouldn't just blindly write checks. He was very interested in how this was all working. Somewhere in the conversation, he asked me what were we doing for a motor in the Madeline, and well, our board had already agreed to not put a motor in that boat at that time. This was before it was launched. This is 87 or 86, something like that, and he looked at me like I was insane. And I said, well, hey, it's a replica, He was like, you can't not have an engine in that boat. You got to have an engine. That thing will never make it. And I go, well, I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's kind of pricey, and we, whatever. That was that. And he said, well, how much would that cost? And I told him, and he scratched his chin for a minute and said, count me in. You need a motor. So I went back to the board and said, yeah, you guys aren't going to believe what just happened, but Jerry Olson just decided to cover our engine for this thing. Bob's going to have to draw one in there somewhere and figure out how to put it in. And one of our board members had a friend who had a cousin or somebody that knew somebody at a diesel engine company in Grand Rapids. Owned it, okay. And the phone call was made. Hey, we're looking for a 471 marine engine, whatever. Any ideas on cost or whatever? And they were like, well, what are you doing with it? Told them what we were doing with it. And this woman who owned the company said, there's one sitting right here that was ordered but hadn't been picked up, and they reneged on the order. I'd like to donate that to you guys with all the parts and pieces, and we'll deliver it. So, okay, so we go back to the board and go, guess what, and then I go back to Jerry Olson and say, you're not going to believe what just happened, but blah, 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 that happened. And he, without skipping a beat, said, that's the way it's supposed to work. And it was the genius of that man, and it worked. It really worked. And then I still needed the lumber, so he helped us buy some lumber then. So at the end of the day, we had all this new lumber plus a beautiful Detroit Diesel Allison 471 that's still running.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was a good story about just philanthropic behavior and being a good neighbor.
And community spirit.
Throughout Michigan, yeah,
right.
Not just Traverse City.
Sure. And then recently, the Great Lakes Boat Building School, we're collaborating with them, and we had a guest speaker here who spoke. Matthew Stackwell was here recently, and the whaleboat today actually is on display, one built by the Great Lakes Boat Building School.
Up in Hessel there.
Out in Cedarville.
Or Cedarville, yeah.
And so everybody can go over and see that. But the MHA currently has over 250 members. And
anyway,
sounds about right. And I think it's all because of the beginning, the foundation that you all contributed to this organization. And you feel like it's been a rewarding experience. I get the impression, yes, it definitely has been rewarding for you.
Absolutely.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. Well, and it's a great community to, everybody leaves their own baggage at the door, and we all just get to focus on this one thing. And but we see each other in town all the time. Everybody does, and so there's this. It's just a good camaraderie. As with a lot of groups, you get that. But there's something special about seeing a big boat sitting out there that everybody had their hand on it somewhere, and the legacy is strong.
Right. Well, thank you both very much. Thank you, Bob, for today to talk about the heritage. And thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much. And I think that's it. I can refer people to our website at www.maritimeheritagealliance.org for more information about programs, how to volunteer, how to donate. Thank you.